Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Michael Septerman and we're back here this week on Blender. I just want to start off this video by apologizing for not uploading last week because I was super sick with the seasonal flu. Especially here in Canada, the weather is getting much colder with like -20, -15 degree weather. So I unfortunately came down with the flu last week and couldn't upload a video. But we're back here today, and today we are going to be taking a look at the one thing that could improve your low poly renders right here in Blender. So let's talk low poly here in Blender. I'm going to throw up two images on the screen, and I want you to tell me what the differences are between the two. Comment them down below before you see the results if you want a chance for your comment to be pinned on top. Got it? Okay, if you answered that the second image had bevels on them, then you are correct. Although both of them are in the low poly style made here in Blender and something super simple, the second image had beveling. They bevel the corners and kind of round them out in order to give them a more smooth and organic shape. And a lot of times in low poly renders, you want to bevel your edges in order to make them look much cleaner and much more stylized in the way that you want them. So today I'm going to be showing you how to bevel and how to use the beveling modifier for hard surface modeling and low poly modeling in Blender. So here we have the default Blender setup, and let's test this out on the cube. So let's just highlight the camera and the light. Let's delete that. And let's kind of look into our cube here. As you can see that the edges are super hard without any of the beveling modifiers. And they kind of go to a sharp edge. And if you kind of just look around your room and look around in real life, nothing has an edge this sharp, not even a knife. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of beveling in order to make the shape look better. So let's just move this up on the Z-axis. And as always, you can see what I'm doing on the bottom right. And let's go into the modifiers tab. And let's add in this bevel modifier. So this is the first way you can add a bevel to your object in Blender. And as you can see, it made all the edges smoothed out like this and adds an extra layer of geometry. And now let's take a look at the bevel modifier here on the right. As you can see, there are many options that we can play with, such as the amount, how much you're beveling, the segments, how many segments there are in the bevel, like that. And there are some more advanced stuff such as limiting methods, the profile, geometry, and the shading of the bevel. So we can also bevel just the vertices like this, if you just want to bevel the vertices in order to make an interesting shape like that, but we're going to keep with the edges for now. So in order to make your low poly renders look like mine did in the comparison, let's increase these segments to something like 10. And as you can see, we already have a more rounded edge. And let's reduce the amount to something like 0.04. And finally, let's right click and shade auto smooth our cube. As you can see from afar, the cube looks geometrically similar. However, you can see that the edges are much smoother than they were before. And this kind of adds a little bit of a stylized look onto your renders in Blender. And I'm going to pull up the second image on screen again here, and you can kind of see where the beveling occurs in this scene. You can see it around the base plate of the house. You can see it on the house cube itself, as well as the doors and the window on the house walls. So this is a really good way for you to just level up your renders and create them in a more stylistic way. I'm sure though, for you Blender veterans out there, you know that this is not the only way to bevel edges in Blender. So I'm going to show all of you who are new to Blender how exactly to bevel the edges here. So let's get rid of this bevel modifier by pressing X, and we're back to our default cube. So another way you can bevel your edges here in Blender is doing it in edit mode. And make sure that you know that this kind of beveling, the second method of beveling, is a destructive form of modeling. So just to make sure that you keep that in mind so you know exactly what you're doing. So let's click the cube and let's tab into edit mode here, and let's go to edge select. Let's say you have a cube like this, but you only want to bevel one edge. So let's pick this edge here and let's press Ctrl B on our keyboard, and that brings us into this beveling menu. So now we can move our mouse in order to increase and decrease the amount that we bevel, and we can also scroll up on the mouse wheel to increase the number of segments we're beveling with to make it smoother, or scroll down in order to decrease the segments and make it smoother. So this is great for hard surface modeling, subdivision modeling, and others as well. So to confirm, let's just left click. And as you can see on the bottom left here, there is more bevel options that we can edit. And as you can see, it looks very similar to the bevel modifier options that we saw earlier. So we can increase and decrease the shape. We can increase the number of segments. We can increase the width. We can harden the normals, which is a whole different thing altogether. And there are so many other advanced options here that I just simply do not have the time to go through right now, but feel free to look into them on your own time and kind of play around with them to see what they do. So the one difference that kind of beveling and the second kind of beveling has is that this kind of beveling adds geometry, and these geometries are directly editable. So you can see me playing around with these faces that we beveled earlier, and I can extrude from them. I can scale them in and out like this. And as you can see, it just adds a whole lot more geometry for you to play with. So this is great if you need to add more geometry onto your mesh while also keeping that beveled look that we talked about earlier. So let's undo this and I'll show you how you can kind of bevel it to look like the way we wanted it to look earlier. So let's just click all these edges and just bevel. And as you can see, we end up with the same result as we did earlier. The only difference is there's more geometry for you here to play with. So let's do something like that. And as you can see, there's a little bit of an antenna coming out of the cube. And there are many more applications to beveling, not just in low poly. There's also beveling is commonly used in hard surface modeling, which is what a lot of sci-fi / futuristic modelers use. Beveling is also used to smoothen out edges on realistic renders to make edges look more realistic, because like I said earlier, if you see in real life, none of the edges are actually that sharp. So yes, that's the second method on how to bevel. So that concludes the two methods on how to bevel your edges here in Blender and how to add a bevel modifier to your meshes. Hopefully all of you took away something from this video today, and hopefully all of you can use it in your next render. For those of you who haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to go down into the description and just click that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you are notified every time I upload a new video. Once again, I apologize for not being able to upload last week, and I hope from here on out there won't be any more unexpected visitors like the flu. So everyone, thank you once again for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Goodbye!